Hi everyone, my name is Joseph Bulbulia and I'm speaking to you from Wellington, New Zealand. The first thing I want to do is to congratulate Paul Reddish. Many of you know Paul, who's a postdoctoral researcher at LEVYNA. He just got his PhD awarded this week and it's a big deal. So here's to you, Paul. You've done absolutely wonderfully. Okay, so I've been invited to speak about the importance of experimental approaches in the study of religion, and that makes for a mercifully short talk. One of the benefits of experimental approaches is that the results speak for themselves. No special justification is needed. So instead of advertising the field, I'm just going to make a few observations. So the first observation, and these are predictions for the next, I guess, 15 years or so in the experimental study of religion. Well, the first prediction is that experimental religious studies will emerge as a leading movement in the study of religion. So I've no doubt that the experimental research of the kind that's being generated at LEVYNA will eventually come to dominate the field of religious studies as a whole. And the reason for this is that the research is just too interesting. It's getting at questions, it's settling old debates, it's interesting the smartest young people. These people will and are getting positions, and we're just going to see a whole lot more of this. So whereas LEVYNA, I think, is a world first for having an experimental laboratory for the study of religion in a religious studies department, it's certainly not the last. And I think it's really going to be quite a general trend. Okay, the second prediction is that passive data capture will enable very large field studies. So those of you who've conducted field studies, experimental field studies, understand the challenges that these present. Very difficult. And I think the new technologies that are emerging for capturing information passively from video data and recording instruments that don't require heavy intervention in rituals, I think that those technologies are going to make a difference, and they're coming together with new methods for analyzing complex data and the dynamics of complex data. And I gather you've had a workshop on some of these methods just this week. We can begin to see how these tools and methods will combine to create very powerful new ways of addressing questions about how religion works and what it's doing for us. The third prediction is that the historical study of religion will become an experimental science. So experiments test predictions, but not all predictions relate to the future. To my mind, some of the most impressive experimental studies of religion over the past several years have focused on the past, and I'm thinking of Ted's work on folk dualism in Chinese texts. And we're looking at the emergence of new database projects, which Ted and Harvey Whitehouse and Peter Turchin and their colleagues are setting up, which will begin to enable a kind of a vibrant experimental science of history. Now that's going to be a big deal in the years ahead. I also think we're going to see an increase in national longitudinal probability samples. So I think what's going to happen is, instead of focusing on experiments, so sort of what happens within a very short period of time, we're going to be able to track individuals over longer periods of time. And I'm already working on research with Chris Sibley at Auckland University, who started a very ambitious longitudinal national study, and we're beginning to address, I think, very interesting questions about how religion is changing within individuals and within society as a whole over time. So I think we're going to see more of those sorts of studies. They just have too much power to ignore. Okay, so the fifth and final prediction is that we're going to see a rise of, I guess, policy or practical interest in this knowledge that's being generated through the experimental study of religion. So people are going to really begin to understand how it is that what looks to be sort of marginal and at the edges of life, religious rituals and beliefs and so forth, what the kind of important role these elements play, or these dimensions play, in organizing social life. So I think those policy applications are going to be big. Okay, so those are the 5 predictions. I've also been asked to introduce Dimitris Xygalates. Now, this is a guy that doesn't need any introduction. He is basically redefining the field of experimental ritual studies. We can look at his Spanish firewalk study and see the first demonstration of quantified collective effervescence, ending debates about how that works or whether it exists. We've seen his related work on memory effects, showing memory distortions and amnesia from high-intensity rituals. No one thought that was happening. Just the kind of surprises that experimental approaches bring. We've seen his recent publication of a priming study showing that natural religious ecologies tend to affect the cooperation of people, whether or not they're religious. So that's a very important finding. And we have work Dimitris is leading on social identity in high-intensity rituals, revealing their hidden power for enlarging our sense of self and for promoting charity. So there's lots of stuff like that, and I'm just going to let Dimitris get on with it. So there you go. Have a good conference. I wish very much I could be there.